Welcome, welcome. Hi, ladies. I'm Peggy Sagers, and our goal at Silhouette Patterns is to always just help you get better. So we filter through the emails, I filter through the emails, and it really gives me a feel for what you know and what you don't know. And repeatedly, these sewing myths, I'm going to call them untruth myths, whichever you want to title them, really clog us up in our sewing. So I've created a DVD. This really isn't about DVD sales. It is just to let you know that we have so much available for you and really trying to get that information out to you. The first, as I go through these myths, is there really three categories. One is in sewing, one is in the patterns, and one is in the styling. So I'm going to just touch on each of those three areas, one myth from each of those three areas, just to get you a general idea. You may know them all, but you may not, and if you don't, I think it really hampers us. The first one is just incredibly, I don't know how this myth got taught to everybody wrong, but it did. It's amazing to me that a bust dart changes circumference. I hear it so many times, oh, I made the C cup and I need more circumference. Should I make the D cup? No, because a bust dart just literally shortens the length on the side of the garment, not at the center. It doesn't alter circumference at all. We might think it does because of a bra cup sizing, but in blousing or anything like that, it does not change circumference. So depth doesn't alter circumference, and you need to know that. Cup sizing won't make my circumference larger or smaller. That's a pattern myth. The second one applies to even in the beginning, choosing and selecting my size. We have kind of been innovated by the pattern industry saying to us, you should do this to choose your size. You should measure your bust and make that size. It will never work. It'll never work. It'll never work. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it will never work. So let me just give you a great alternative that works simply 100% effective. It's terrific, but it's not involving you. It's involving measuring your clothes. So, and let me give you just a scenario. If I have three women and they're all a size 40 bust, they all physically measure a size 40 bust. One is 20 years old, one's 40, and one's 60. I've used this analogy so many times. The 20-year-old and the 60-year-old don't want to wear their blouse the same. They don't want the same amount of ease. We've heard this thing that, oh, ease is 2 inches. That's just ridiculous. You've got to get that out of your head. Ease has nothing to do with any kind of standard. It has everything to do with how old you are, you know, how religious you are, what moral upbringing, what moral fiber, I don't know, etc., etc. You understand, it has a lot more to do. So what I want to do is I'm going to go to a garment that I wear. This is my jacket. I love it. And you want to collect a series of measurements that will help you duplicate what it is you like about your clothing. Measure the garments, and you can literally measure them at the fullest part of the bust. You can say that's the number I need it to be, and that would be it. On our Silhouette Pattern website, on the very left side, the last tab, we have extras, and if you'll click on that page and tips in the middle, there'll be a page, a chart, and you can fill out all the favorite measurements that you have of your garments. But you should go shopping, you should go through your closet. You've got to figure out what you like in your garments before you're ready to sew. Alright, the third thing has to do with sewing. We seem to have been taught somewhere along the lines that pins are great. Pins are not. Pins are not used in the factory, number one, because they're a real hazard to the people in the factory, and they're a real hazard to the sewing machines. So when I sew, and when I go ahead and put two pieces of fabric together, line them up, the pins will actually not stop anything. They won't stop the shift. They won't stop anything. So the best way for me to really stop the shifting, which is what I think most of us are trying to do with those pins, is literally to put one hand behind. I'm not pulling, I'm just kind of guiding. So this hand is actually pulling the fabric through. This hand is controlling the seam allowance amount. And that way my fabric cannot shift. I'm not allowing it to shift. Many of you have pinned for years, and the pinning in the attempt to stop the shift, but what we know is that pinning just doesn't stop the shifting. And I'm running over pins, and I'm doing other things. So pull back on that pinning. You won't go pinless overnight, but in the beginning start to pull back on those pins, use them less and less and less, and eventually you'll be sewing pin free, and you'll be sewing much faster and much better because my hand will be controlling the flow of that fabric. Alright, our goal here is to really just bring you some great tips so that you can, your sewing, be as happy as our sewing is. Happy sewing from Silhouette Patterns.